Hi, Sam Volkring here. I'm here with Rebecca Gorman from Aligned AI, and we're going to just talk about AI, the AI industry, the work that Aligned AI does, and the importance of what Aligned AI does with the development and progress of AI as we know it and as it comes into the future. So, Rebecca, thank you very much for joining us today. Hope you're well. I think the best way to kick this off would be to maybe just give our readers and viewers a bit of a background as to what you do and your role as CEO at Aligned AI, and a bit about what Aligned AI does.
So Aligned AI does frontier research into making artificial intelligence more precise, reliable, and controllable. Machine learning as it's used today is not really fit for purpose. It's a technology that's wasn't created for most of the applications it's being used for, and it's kind of a Frankenstein of misfit parts that's kind of strapped together and always needs to be retrained and fixed on a continual basis because it's being used in ways that it really isn't meant to be used. So we're working on going back to the fundamentals of artificial intelligence and machine learning and helping to build it in a better designed, better engineered way from the ground up.
Well, you mentioned something there about training and I guess learning. One of the things that I've written about previously to our readers, which I think would be, again, good to get an understanding of, is when people talk about machine learning or AI, do you want to step through how a machine develops intelligence? I mean, is it literally like how a child learns the alphabet, or is there a more complex method to how AI comes to fruition?
So machine learning, you could think about it as automated statistics. Machine learning literally is a mashup of computer science and statistics to help computers understand a distribution of data instead of only a single data point like you have in more traditional computing. It's not actually like a human intelligence at all. I know that a lot of people have felt that more recent technologies like ChatGPT are closer to human-like intelligence. But if you look at some of the strange hacking or jailbreaking attempts that succeeds on these models, it shows you just how alien these systems are in comparison to our own minds.
So is it fair to say that for everybody that says AI is on the precipice of becoming conscious, and there's an existential threat to our very existence as humans, probably fair to say we're actually a really, really, really long way away from anything like that?
That's a really interesting question. A lot of people think that the smarter a computer gets, the more dangerous it gets. But I actually think that a dumb computer could be very, very dangerous.
I think the same could be said about humans as well.
Exactly. In fact, the more that we help computers to understand the kinds of concepts that we have in a robust way, instead of being this alien, strange thing with unexpected behaviors, the more we're able to actually get it to do what we want it to do instead of something else. So some parts of intelligence, like robustly understanding the intent of its creators, that kind of intelligence actually increases the safety of artificial intelligence systems.
Are AI systems that we have now, are they able to do that? So for people watching, the reason I reached out to Rebecca in the first place was I saw an article that published, a paper published about misgeneralization, which, again, feel free to correct me, but basically explains that if AI systems learn a particular behavior, to then apply that behavior in a completely new, somewhat foreign environment, they tend to fail quite a lot in that new environment because of what they've learned previously. They can't apply in that new environment. But is it that you've managed to break through that idea, and that what you've been developing can now take human-like learned behavior and apply it to a more randomized environment?
Yes. So basically, the way that artificial intelligence is being created in industry today, when artificial intelligence learns the wrong thing, it gets stuck on that wrong thing. And the problem with that is that because we're just throwing a bunch of data at the AI and not really inspecting what it learns from that data, it very frequently learns the wrong thing, or not all of the right thing, or something that is the right thing now but isn't the right thing later. And in all of those situations, the artificial intelligence ends up in a new situation someday in the future where what we want it to do is different from what it thinks we want it to do. So what we've done is given machine learning, artificial intelligence, the ability to reevaluate its instructions based on the new situation that it's entered, and say, given the instructions I was originally given the training I was originally given, how might the humans want me to extend that to this new environment that I'm in? And to act cautiously with that information.
Okay, is that something that, like, how does that come about? So how do you teach it to now behave in that way?
So the way we've taught it to behave in that way is to reevaluate its training instructions in the light of the new information it has. So artificial intelligence, sometimes we decide to send it out into the world to act independently. So we've given it all this training where we give it rewards for doing the right thing. And then we send it out into the world with no more instructions and no more rewards. And we just hope that it continues doing what we expected and wanted it to do. So the problem is that there's a combinatorial explosion of possible new worlds, new environments for an artificial intelligence to encounter. It's not always going to look exactly like its training environment. And you and I know what to do in that situation. When we're in a foreign country and the architecture is different, we're still able to identify a building. And the food is different, but we still know what's food and what's not. Artificial intelligence didn't really have that capability before. And that's the capability that we're giving it, to take in the new environment and evaluate how to interpret it in the light of its past training information.
It seems like a quite a large leap forward to more human-like behavior. What do you foresee the maybe more practical applications of this would be with where AI is today?
We expect it to have a revolutionary impact on robotics. I don't know if you've seen those really cool videos of the dancing Boston Dynamics robot and
doing parkour around the giant warehouse.
Yeah, and the robot dogs doing backflips. They probably noticed, even at the most expensive restaurants, you never have a Boston Dynamics robot serving you dinner. Why is that? And the answer is because there's too many variations in the environment. So maybe there's a lot of lights in the restaurant, and the shadows are different from the environment in which Boston Dynamics trained that robot. Now it doesn't know what's floor versus not floor, and where is it safe to walk. So they've told it to just stop when it gets confused like that. So you can't actually use these really incredible robots in the real world yet because there's just, as I said, this combinatorial explosion of potential environments, and that's actually the real world. You and I navigate through that combinatorial explosion every day. We figure out the shadows. We figure out the strange new plate shapes that ceramicists develop, and we make it through. When robots have abilities like that, we can start to introduce them into the real world safely to help human beings at home, in the workplace, in industry, in agriculture, in space, and that's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, that incredibly exciting. I'd never looked at it that way. It's funny. I was at an airport. I think it was Frankfurt Airport, not that long ago, and a robot delivered the food from the kitchen to me. And I took a photo of it. I can't remember the name of it, but it certainly wasn't a Boston Dynamics one. It wasn't, a humanoid-like robot with arms and legs. It was just a little trolley on wheels that, had a bunch of sensors on it to not bump into stuff. So it was quite a basic thing. I don't even think it was that smart, to be fair. But it's an incredible point to think that. And again, people still, we have readers that write in and they say, well, all this amazing technology is out there, but it's not out there. It's not real. I have a Roomba, but I don't have a robot standing at my kitchen doing the washing up. Is it fair to say then that the idea of robotics and this new wave of AI that can do these more human-like behaviors and learn in this way, is it kind of a match made in heaven, robotics and the future of where our AI is heading?
That's an interesting question. I think the thing that makes robotics really exciting is it gives artificial intelligence a way to interact with the real world. I suppose that's also what makes it really frightening. Although I am actually perhaps more afraid of artificial intelligence that's in computers connected to the internet and not very smart. And it can have quite a lot of access and quite a lot of power. Whether we're talking about robots or digital systems, we need it to understand human concepts and follow those robustly so that it can be safe, understand the intent of its creators. The interesting thing about robots is that if they don't understand the way that we understand the world, they can't really be any use to us at all. So if a robot doesn't understand the difference between, it's okay to walk through a shadow, but it's not okay to walk through a wall, then we can't really send it out into the world without it destroying property. So in order for it to be useful at all, really, in order for it to be deployed into the real world, there has to be a pretty high level of safety before we find that it's commercially valuable. And in a sense, that's nice. People deploy digital AIs all the time that are not safe at all. You may know that in the last year, it's been established definitively that social media has led to the deaths of some teenagers. That's backed. Social media is not just pictures on a screen. It's actually, those images are recommended by our artificial intelligences, unsafe artificial intelligences that were deployed at scale on hundreds of millions of people. And it was possible to deploy them even though they weren't safe. So I'd like to see those systems become safe too, because those are already dangerous systems.
Do you think that safety comes from regulation and government trying to, I guess, have some sort of way of putting laws in place? Or do you think that the driving force, I think, for safety and deploying these systems in an ethical and moral way is probably going to be driven more by, like, the work you're doing and by private enterprise?
A lot of us have tried for a very long time to try to help legislation catch up and try to help companies to have a conscience. And that process has been very slow. A lot of people got so frustrated they dropped out of the fight. That's why we started this. Well, this is why I started this company. My founder got into it to prevent existential risk. But I realized that there's actually a huge commercial value in artificial intelligence that does what you want it to do instead of something else. I'm going to say something that's perhaps a little morbid, but a dead teenager is not a customer. You can't make any more money off them. So this unintended impact of the artificial intelligence specific behavior is not actually beneficial to the enterprise. So you can actually capture corporate greed to create safer and more ethical artificial intelligence systems. And that the market is a very powerful force. So what we're doing here is we're appealing to the market's greed to have artificial intelligence that's more valuable and more profitable because it's doing what it's intended to do.
That's a pretty powerful rationale for deploying better, more safer, more effective systems. I love that. I love exactly the approach that you're taking with that. I think it's fantastic. We'll finish up. We'll finish up with just one more question, and it's funny before I think probably the release of ChatGPT to the world, into the wild, so to speak. AI was always kind of around, and people sort of had heard about it and knew about it, but never really caught the sort of mainstream attention as it has in 2023. Because people, I don't think, had tangible access to some of these tools, generative AI, it's really sort of become accessible to everybody. And in that sense, no one really thought too much about it. So it never really took on is it good, is it bad, apart from people that were sort of in on the industry and knew what was happening, and people that were involved in sort of correlated industries as well. Now there seems to be, and maybe this is just the byproduct of the environment we live in and the times, both socioeconomical and socially and all of that, but there does seem to be a bit of a scary negative tilt to a lot of the coverage that AI gets. Like, as I said, about being an existential threat, and the idea of the singularity, and then that becoming machines realizing that humans are irrelevant. You can take on you get a lot of negative angles to it. I'm more optimistic in, like what you said, is that if we can teach AI and help it deploy in safer, moral, the way that humans want it to behave, that it can be a very powerful force for lifting living standards and a whole bunch of different things. But I want to get your take on where do you see the industry and the AI story developing from here? Do you think in the sort of short term that it starts to become more positive and people are more optimistic about it because we can start to deploy safer, more efficient systems that are beneficial and help us, be it something like, I don't know, radiology or healthcare and medicine? What's your view on how the sort of overall environment around AI moves over the next few years, do you think?
I think there's a few different directions they could go, and I think that's still being worked out by all of us that are involved. And the way I'd like to see it go is for people to realize that in order to get more usability and usefulness out of AI systems, we actually have to help them understand human intent in a robust way, and then we actually get more usability out of them. The way that if cars randomly exploded if you were wearing the wrong color of socks, they wouldn't be commercially viable. You wouldn't have all these large automotive companies selling cars to people to drive, because nobody would get in one because they don't know if they're going to live to see dinner. So a lot of people are talking as if you can get more capable artificial intelligence without increasing the safety of artificial intelligence. They're even talking as if capabilities and safety are opposed to each other. And that's not what we've found. We've found that in order to make an artificial intelligence that's more useful, you actually have to make it safer first. Just like a more useful car is more useful because it's safer. You can actually drive it without dying. Now that you can drive it without dying, you can drive it to work, you can drive it to the shops, you can bring home your groceries, you can drive the kids to school, and it's a more useful car. So we really think that the whole industry should be focused on putting safety first in order to create commercially viable artificial intelligence.
Incredible. That's fantastic, and a perfect way, I think, to end our discussion today. I just want to say thank you very much for your perspective and view and the work that you're doing with AI at the moment. Everyone go check out Aligned AI. We'll have a link to the site, and you can read about all the work that they're doing by following those links. So thanks again, Rebecca, very much for joining us.
Great to be here.
Is there anything you wanted to leave our viewers with today before we wrap up completely?
Stay safe and be responsible in your use of AI, and especially in your deployment of AI. Digital AI can be deployed on hundreds of millions of people in an instant. If you are a creator of artificial intelligence, please think about the possible ramifications of your actions before you release one into the wild.
Perfect. Thanks very much for joining us. And thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back with you again soon. Bye for now.